Foreign tourists are eating too many rice balls in Japan, according to a recent report from NHK.
One reason rice is in short supply is an increase in consumption by international tourists. These onigiri rice balls are also proving popular with overseas visitors.
You serious?
In case you didn't know, Japan is currently experiencing one of the worst rice shortages in history. But is it really because tourists are gobbling up all the precious Japanese rice? Now that my reputation is on the line, it's time to get serious.
Objection!
Official data shows that Japan expects 35 million tourists in 2024. Let's be generous and assume they stay for 2 weeks on average. Now compare that to the 123.9 million locals who eat rice full-time all year long. That's only about 1% of Japan's annual rice consumption at most, which isn't enough to cause such a disturbance in demand. Another reason you might have heard from state media is that the 2023 harvest season saw sustained heat, leading to a lower yield. But if you check out the official data from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, you'll see the crop condition index for 2023 is at 101, slightly above 100, which is the benchmark for an average year's harvest conditions. And the yield per area wasn't that bad at all. So you see, it's easy to blame climate change or tourists for everything, but this time, neither of those are the real culprits. So what is then? To get a better perspective, we have to go back in time. After World War II, Japan's agricultural production plummeted, and the country had to rely on food imports to avoid mass starvation. The US sent over large amounts of surplus wheat to Japan and heavily promoted a wheat-based diet to the Japanese people. Here I quote General Douglas MacArthur, "We have come to transform the poor Japanese diet of rice, fish, and vegetables into a rich diet of bread, meat, and milk." Food education campaigns were launched all over Japan. Kitchen buses roamed the cities teaching housewives how to cook with flour. A nationwide school lunch program of bread and milk was also introduced as part of the occupation policy. The media even started pushing the narrative that the Japanese diet was inferior. A very well-known rumor of that time is eating rice makes you dumb. All these factors combined integrated wheat into the Japanese diet, shaping it into what it is today. For better or worse, iconic dishes like ramen and gyoza, which we all know and love, would never have been so closely associated with Japan's cultural identity if none of this had happened. Okay, that's an interesting story, but what does it have to do with the rice shortage? While wheat didn't fully replace rice as the main staple food, it did expand the Japanese palate with more choices. Combined with the increased variety of dairy and meat options, this led to a decline in rice consumption. This was bad timing because in the early 1960s, Japan had just become self-sufficient in rice production again. But as demand for rice dropped, overproduction became an issue which caused prices to fall and put farmers' livelihoods at risk. To boost rural economy and ensure food security, the government introduced the infamous acreage reduction policy. This policy set limits on the amount of land each prefecture could use to grow rice. Farmers were encouraged to diversify into other crops or leave their land unused in exchange for subsidies. This was an infinite money glitch for the farmers. They could get paid for doing nothing at all. But this quickly trapped the industry into a downward spiral that was hard to break out of. While the policy did help stabilize prices and support farmers for decades, it also caused a significant drop in both acreage and production, which in turn further decreased demand and consumption. Looking back, both acreage and production have more than halved since the 1960s. Normally this wouldn't be a problem because supply and demand have been going down at about the same rate. Even today, Japan is still 100% self-sufficient in the rice category.
You're pretty good.
But the catch is, Japan's rice production has now become much less resilient and can no longer handle external challenges as effectively. It only takes a small disruption to upset the fragile balance. Knock knock. It's the natural disasters. First, there was the Nankai earthquake advisory in August, warning of a potential megaquake that could claim thousands of lives. Then came typhoons Ampul and Shanshan, leaving chaos in their wake as they swept across the country. With these looming threats, it's no surprise that people began panic buying like never before. Many supermarkets and convenience stores had to impose purchase limits to manage the rush. Despite repeated efforts by the government to calm the public, the panic buying continues. And by the looks of it, it won't be stopping anytime soon. What will the government do now? Social media, of course. MAF has been posting YouTube shorts about this year's harvest to boost public confidence. Ironically, Japan's rice exports are at a record high. According to MAF data from September 3rd, rice exports between January and July this year increased by 23%. The government claims that everything was planned in advance, ensuring rice for export is kept separate from domestic consumption, and that there are no plans to divert export rice for domestic use. However, you can't really blame the public for speculating that the government might be limiting supply intentionally to keep prices high. Whether that's true or not, we may never know. But what we do know is that typhoon season is almost over, and new rice from this year's harvest will be hitting the shelves soon. Hopefully, that will put an end to the rice shortage, for now. In the end, Japan's rice problem is theirs to solve. There really is no easy fix for the damage done by decades of misguided policies.
That's a lot of damage!
But I would say to stop blaming the tourists and start addressing the real issues might be a great place to start. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.